The only thing that ever went through my mind was just to end it, just to be done with all the emotional pain, all the insecurities, all the self-hatred, just to be over it and done and actually be able to breathe again.
Katie isn't the only person you'll meet along this journey. You'll also meet Brianna, Nicole, and Laura, and you'll hear them talk about their struggles with mental illness. 1 in 5 adults experience mental illness in a given year. 16 million people suffer from severe depression, and 42 million live with an anxiety disorder.
My name is Brianna Wilson. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression when I was about 18 or 19 years old, so it's been about 5 years or so now. My grandmother suffers from depression and anxiety. She pretty much isolates herself all the time, so she definitely passed that down to me. My mom, I think she kind of suffers with depression from time to time, but not as bad as me and my grandmother. When I first found out, I was taking classes at TCC when I first graduated high school, and everything was just really overwhelming to me. Like, I couldn't keep up with my classes. I just didn't want to be there. Nothing was making sense. So I ended up telling my mom and my grandparents, and they kind of just told me, you know, give yourself some time to figure out what you need to do. And basically, I actually ended up going to Ohio with my grandparents for a few months. My grandmother, of course, with her suffering from anxiety and depression, she was honestly pretty, you know, welcoming, and she was willing to help me with it. My mom, she didn't really see anything wrong with me. She's just like, oh, well, you need to just push yourself or try and work harder, or whatever the case may be. But my grandparents were always really supportive, and that's why they took the initiative to come get me and let me come up there with them in Ohio for a few months. So they were pretty supportive. I was on Ativan for my anxiety, which it made me really drowsy, so I stopped taking it. And also with me having stomach problems, a stomach condition, anxiety and IBS tie into each other, so they recommended fluoxetine, which is supposed to help with anxiety, but I don't think it's really doing anything. Ativan, like I said, made me really drowsy, which I didn't like that at all, so that's why I stopped taking it maybe like a week or two after. I didn't really keep up with it. The fluoxetine, I take it on a daily basis, so, which it's been months, like it's been a few months now I've been taking that, and friends have been a really big influence. Having one best friend that I know I can go to all the time and talk to her about everything that I have going on. She also suffers with mental illness. My brothers, they kind of help a little bit, even though they get on my last nerve. But family-wise, like I said, at first my grandparents were really helpful, but then they kind of like stopped calling, they stopped checking on me, and they just kind of like gave up on me altogether. And my mom, she doesn't really, she doesn't understand. She tries, but it's kind of like she's not really trying to understand what's going on. I have sticky notes on my wall that I put up, so the idea when I first started was to write a quote every day and just put a sticky note on my wall, and I did it for a few weeks. Like, I was just going for it, and then I fell off with that, so that's not good. Had times where I'm like, I don't really want to be here. Some thoughts have crossed my mind, like, what am I doing with myself?
Every year, 1 million people report making a suicide attempt. So I asked these individuals if they've ever tried to or thought about attempting suicide, and I asked them to please talk about it.
I've never tried. I have thought about it. It's kind of just like this passing thought, like it'll just kind of fly through my mind, like, well, what if you weren't here? You know, would things be better, or would it be worse, or what exactly are you doing here? Like, I don't know, sometimes I just feel like I can't really catch my breath, so it's hard.
Suicidal thoughts is something that I deal with on a daily basis. For me, suicide is not an option. It would destroy my children, especially Brianna. I'm all she has. Unfortunately, she suffers from the same, and I feel like if I were to do that, that it would be the last final push for her.
My weakest time was in 7th grade. I actually ended up in the hospital for 3 days because I was getting, again, same thing, was just getting picked on. And there were these 2 girls that were just really, really every day, just from the moment I stepped in first bell to the second I got done with 7th, just riding me all day. And there was one day I just couldn't take it anymore, and I started to feel suicidal. And you know, I would play Adam's song by Blink-182 on a loop, except the end is about deciding I'm not suicidal anymore, I'm gonna go on, and I would skip that part. I would just go back because I was just like, you know, I don't want to be here anymore, I'm tired of dealing with this. And I told my parents, I was like, I want to kill myself. And they called my psychologist, and I was in Mary View's behavioral the behavioral ward.
Sometimes dealing with mental illness by yourself can be very hard. I asked these individuals if they had any coping methods and what they were.
Listen to music pretty much every day, like when I'm waking up and I don't feel the best, just try and listen to something happy or whatever the case may be. My favorite song at the time.
Into college years, I would often cut myself. Actually, I mean, well, I'm wearing a sweater now, but I actually do have slight, very, very faint scars. I never did it. I did a couple across the wrist a few times, but most of the time, like, I didn't want people to see it, so I would do my upper arms or my stomach, an area people wouldn't see.
I was a self-harmer. I've moved forward from that, but it's still something that I've gone back to. So, I'm a self-medicator. Like I said, when I was young, I had bulimia. Obviously, food is still an issue for me. I'm 13 years sober. I started drinking when I was 17. I drank a lot. I was a shitty mom to Brianna for a long time. Because I was always drunk. I would drink and drive. Drank every day. Couldn't wait to get off work so I could go home and drink. Luckily, she doesn't really remember it that way because I wasn't like a falling down drunk.